Hey y'all, I have been away for a little bit, but I wanted to go live because I was feeling a little triggered yesterday, and I was thinking about why I was feeling triggered, and I wanted to share about what was triggering me, why it was triggering me, and how I am learning to accept the things that have happened to me. And I don't know if anybody else is watching, but I am watching the second season of Paris in Love. I really love Paris Hilton. I really loved her memoir. I really loved her vulnerability and her sharing so openly and authentically and sharing so much about herself that she hadn't shared with anybody. You know what I'm saying? And in this season that I'm watching, she is currently about to launch this book that she made that is super brave of her to be doing and to be sharing with the whole entire world. Things that are unimaginably traumatic. And in the show, she is having a really hard time talking with her mom. And she's looking for a safe space to be able to have these really uncomfortable, really challenging conversations with her mom. And it's so frustrating to me because in the show, her mom is only, it seems, in the moment that they're filming, she's only concerned with the way that she looks versus how her daughter has been feeling and all the trauma and hurt that she's been carrying her whole life. She's more concerned about herself and how other people perceive her and deepening the shame wound, as a victim of abuse and trauma. Humans can have the tendency to bear the burden of carrying that shame, even though it's not their shame to carry. And I understand this because I really relate to her. Not in every way at all, but in certain ways I do. So instead of her mom being a safe space for her, she's only making it worse. And she's continuing to affirm that Paris is a bad person. She didn't say that, but it's implied. And that there's something wrong with her. And that she should have gone to her and she should have done it differently and all of these things. And it was really frustrating to watch. And really triggering to watch because it was sparking some things up in me in ways that I've really needed a safe space in the humans that I want to be safe spaces, right? Please. And I love my mom so much. I don't talk a lot about my mom. And I probably don't talk a lot about our relationship. Our relationship is really good now. It's the best that it's ever been right now. But growing up with a single mom as an only child has been incredibly difficult. And our relationship has been such an incredible roller coaster. And at certain parts, it was really, really hard. I actually went through a period of not talking to her either. So my mom is my best friend, right? Like, you're my mom. You birthed me, you had me. Like, I want you to be at least in these moments, I so wanted her to be a safe space because when I was feeling really hurt and when I was feeling really low and really down and really vulnerable and sensitive, and I'm processing through things, like, you just want your mom, just to be like, I love you and everything's gonna be okay. And I really, for a lot of moments, I really wanted my mom to be that person and to tell me that everything is gonna be okay and to say that she loves me no matter what and that it's gonna be fine. And I did not get that. I'm sure it would be a different story now, but that's taken a lot of communication, a lot of honesty, a lot of things. And it's the same thing with, like, my dad as well, feeling really sensitive and feeling really vulnerable and wanting to go to them as a safe space hasn't been an option for me. I've tried it, and this is the tough thing, is like, you want that person to be your safe space, right? Paris wanted her mom to be that safe space. I wanted my mom and my dad to be that safe space, and then we give them the try. We give them a chance, maybe multiple chances, to be there for us in the way that we really, really desperately need. And then it doesn't really get better. It honestly gets worse because they're projecting their own shame and their own things. And then it just gets worse and it doesn't get better. And I just can understand and I can appreciate the frustration that she may be feeling. And I'm learning to transform these triggers and try to accept them. Because what I feel that anger is, the emotion of anger, is the refusal to accept something. And anger it is an incredibly useful thing, especially when it's felt and when it's communicated in a healthy way. Still learning that myself. It's really useful because when we're angry, that is showing us that our boundaries have been crossed, and that when our boundaries are crossed, we don't want that shit to happen again. So it's an opportunity to communicate healthy boundaries after it happens and all of these things. But it feels a lot better for me. Obviously things take time. Healing takes time. It's a lifelong thing. It's going to happen, and there's going to be new things that pop up and triggers that pop up and things like that, right? There's no rush. But I'm learning that accepting these things and transforming that anger into acceptance feels a lot better for me and my body, and feels a lot more free and lighter and more peaceful, right? I want to cultivate that inner peace. And I asked myself last night in my mind, I have a lot of conversations in my mind, I have conversations out loud, all of these things. And I was asking myself, is it possible to accept that those people could not be there for you in the way that you needed them to? And it's like, it's taken me a long time, but I can accept that they couldn't be there for the way that for the ways that I needed to, even though I so desperately I really wanted them to be the safe spaces. And that's kind of a thing that I'm learning, is that not everyone is going to be that safe space for us. Even the person that you want to be your safe space so bad, more than anything in the world, they might not be able to be your safe space, and that's okay. And I think it takes a lot of trial and error, and I think all of us understand what an unsafe space is and what that looks like. And I think it's important for me to be like, you know what? Not everybody's going to be a safe space. But it's also very important to find that safe space. I think people, as we grow up, there are several, everything's a choice, but there are several avenues that we can go down, and I can understand when someone is being vulnerable and feeling very sensitive and very exposed and very raw, and they're trying to communicate with someone that they trust, and they're looking for that safe space, which to me is like understanding. I understand you. I love you. I'm there for you. It's going to be okay. Unconditional love. And you don't get it from that person. That can be really, really discouraging, and may make someone think that no one else is going to be a safe space for you ever. Like if my parents who made me, who have known me my whole life, know me more than anybody in the world, right? if they can't be my safe space, then no one can. So maybe some humans may have that kind of idea, and then other times when you are able to find someone who is a safe space, at least one person, and give it a chance, it's really not, it could be a really challenging thing to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable in that way, especially when you're already feeling weak, because it can either get better or it can get worse, and you're in such a vulnerable state, where it's very important to find that safe space. And it can be hard to trust other people. I'm definitely working on that myself. But this is kind of this is a sign, this is a message that I want to share, is that keep looking. If you haven't found a safe space yet, keep looking, and you will find one. It might not be in the person that you most want it to be, but it can absolutely be in someone else. I've met it in many different places. I've found my partner at this meatball. This is getting weird. No, it's not meatball. At this pulled pork sandwich party. I go to this pulled pork sandwich party and I find this amazing person who turns into my friend, who turns into my best friend, who turns into my partner, and he was once a stranger, and now he's one of the safest spaces that I have ever found. Another one who was working at the co-op that I went to get groceries every week turned into one of my best friends, and humans that I found on the internet. There are people out there who can be a safe space in the way that we need. I think part of it is also communicating what we need before we say before we share. But this is just to say that there are safe spaces out there. Absolutely. And another part of this acceptance for me has been accepting that this happened for a reason, right? Like, my parents weren't able to be a safe space for me in the times and the ways that I needed it throughout my life. And of course, they're going on their own journey. They're doing the best that they can with the resources that they have, and they have inevitably encountered unsafe spaces, and that's exactly what the pattern that keeps going, right? But I believe that for a lot of us, and for as many of us that choose this, when we are able to experience what that unsafe space looks like, we're able to see, okay, this is what that looks like. And I really understand how important it is to be a safe space for other people, because I understand what happens when you're not when you're not, a safe space. So for me, it's really made me see what's important to me and what's not important to me. And specifically, being a safe space is so crucial, because there are so many of us who have experienced the opposite of this. And it's very important for each of us to find one. And it's very healing. It's very therapeutic. It's the best thing in the whole entire world. It's one of the best things in the whole... safe space is unconditional love, right? That's absolutely the best thing in the whole world. So for me, it's made me really strive to want to be a safe space and to be there for other people in ways that they really desperately need, because I needed that. And it's like, okay, what does a safe space look like? And doing my best to do that. And of course, everybody's just doing their best, but I do believe that happened for a reason. And part of the acceptance of what happened is understanding that maybe this has happened to me, and maybe this has happened to Paris, so that she and I and all of us can understand how important it is to be that safe space that we were looking for when we were younger, for other people who may be having a hard time finding one. And how it's tough, because you of course want to be careful with who you're sharing this with, who you're sharing things with in a vulnerable way. But at the same time, try not to be so incredibly closed off that you don't share it with anybody ever in your whole life. Of course, it's like so imperative to find that safe space, but also not to build walls so high around your heart that they're really hard to break down, you know? And of course, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of learning to trust yourself and learning to trust other people around you, and finding those really safe spaces and where you feel like you can be yourself and where you feel that you will have that unconditional love. And it takes time. It takes time, and a good place to start is here. And giving yourself that empathy and that understanding that you so absolutely deserve. We all absolutely deserve it, especially within ourselves. I think, you know, I think all of us at times can agree that we are ourselves' biggest critic, you know. But there is absolutely a way to come full circle to that and to turn into your own best friend. I've done it, you know. It's absolutely possible. And this is just to say that you are absolutely doing your best. You have been doing your best every single step of the way. If there's a part of you that says, well, I shouldn't have done that, or I regret doing that, or I would do it completely different if I could go back, you cannot go back. You were doing the best that you could with the resources that you had. And if anybody were in your position, they would do the exact same thing. If I was in my mom's position, I would be doing the same exact thing. My dad's, everybody is just doing the best that they can. And you absolutely are doing the best that you can. And there is everything right about that, you know. And our best varies from day to day. And as long as you keep doing your best, which you can't not do, you're doing amazingly. You're doing incredibly. And you are more loved than you can possibly ever imagine. And everyone, I'm just like kind of thinking about, this is kind of how I visualize it in a way. It's like I have probably more ancestors, more spirit guides, more humans who have crossed, maybe who haven't crossed too, because we all have like higher selves who are protecting us and watching over us. And I just imagine like 1,000 beings in this room who are just rallying behind me. And same goes for you too. This is what I imagine. They're just like partying and they're saying, you're doing so fucking good. We are so proud of you. We're so celebrating you. Keep freaking going. You're closer to what you desire more than ever, more than you think. You're doing way better than you think. And you're breaking so many generational patterns and traumas. And yeah, you're just doing way better than you think you are. And you're doing it. Like, you're doing it. And everybody is really, really proud of you and really celebrating you. And you deserve all of the empathy and compassion and love in the whole world. I don't care what you did. No one cares what you did. You could have killed like 1 million people. You still deserve like... This sounds like a little like... You might think, okay. But all humans deserve compassion. You absolutely deserve compassion and loving and understanding, and you are absolutely no exception, and I don't care. But nothing, alright? You're doing great. Okay, thank you so much for listening to me. This is really helpful for me, and I hope that this was helpful for you, and to give you hope that there are safe spaces out there. I promise. Keep going. You're doing it. You're doing an amazing job. I love you so much.